Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Zen Within Me. Okay, today's reading is going to be for Gemini Sun, Moon, Rising, and this is to find out what is your blockage or blind spot in a situation. Now this could be a relationship, work, or just personal self-help that you're trying to see what is holding me back from just doing certain things. All right, you might feel like you're stuck or in a rut. So let's see. What is your blind spot or what is your blockage, Gemini? Now keep in mind this is a general reading. If you would like a private reading of this reading, I do offer it at my Etsy shop, Zen Within Me, and then I offer other readings at zenwithinme.com. Both links are down below in the description box, so feel free to check those out if you are interested. Okay, so without further ado, my darlings, let's get into it. Okay, guides, guardians, ancestors, angels, and angel gods, please give me clear and concise messages for Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising. What is their blockage or blind spot in the situation that they're thinking of? What is their blockage or blind spot? What is Gemini's blockage or blind spot? What is Gemini's blockage or blind spot? Let's see. What is Gemini's blockage or blind spot? Okay. I'm just going to take the two that flipped because otherwise I'm going to be reading here all day. But just so you know, I do one shuffle when you purchase the reading, and whatever comes out with your private purchase, I will read, you know. So if you get 12 cards in one shuffle, well, then you got 12 blind spots or blockages that I need to tell you about. So that's that. But in a general reading, I'm going to try and make this an hour-long video. So I'm just going to use these two that actually flipped face up like this, and that's what we're going to cover. So I'm going to go in number order. No, okay, I'm being told not to go in number order because 4329, 4329, that might be relevant to somebody. So I'm just going to leave those numbers like that. It could also be like I'm getting age 43, age 29. That might be somebody's ages here. Okay, but moving forward, we're going to start with sigil 43. Okay, so you feel free to pause it if you want to study it. I'm going to put it towards the back so my hands can grab the book while I read. Okay, and that one's next. All right, so you have for sigil 43, for some of you, it's assumptions. Okay. If you have drawn the sigil, right now you are assuming, and it just so happens that what you are assuming is incorrect. We assume things about situations based on how similar they are to a model, example or prototype we have already built in our minds. For this reason, assuming is a form of stereotyping. The mind works rather like a computer in this way. For example, if you meet a nice person from a particular country, you will be prone to assume that everyone from that country is nice as well. Or if you were abandoned by your father, you will be prone to assume that all men will abandon you. If we have a poor self-concept and someone starts to act distant, we will assume it is because they feel negatively about us in some way. To assume is to take something for granted or to suppose something is true without having any proof other than our comparison to the pre-existing model. Because we tend to project our own sense of reality onto other people, we also tend to assume things about other people without even talking to them to confirm whether we are right or wrong. For example, we assume that if we ask someone out on a date, they would say no, when in fact they would say yes. We assume someone is mad at us when really they are just busy. If you have drawn this sigil, what are you assuming? What are you accepting as truth, even though it is simply an assumption? You are being called to ask and understand rather than to assume. You are being called to imagine that every person in your life and every situation is a fresh and new experience. Okay, I want to say this. I don't know if anybody remembers The Odd Couple, revealing age here, don't care. And they had to go to court, Oscar and Felix. And Felix did this whole thing with the chalkboard and stuff. So who of you watching, do you actually remember this episode when he used the word assume? And he said, do not assume. And he spelled it out. He said, because then you make an ass of you and me. So do not assume, okay? Because that you can make an ass out of yourself by thinking the wrong things. And this is all very, very true here. How many times does somebody hear a rumor about somebody and they just, instead of confronting the person that the rumor is about, they'll just believe it and they go, oh, okay, well, no, that must be true. Why? Because somebody said it? Why don't you just ask that person? Like me personally, with close people, I'll just ask them, hey, I heard this. Is that true? You know, and I'm not trying to be confrontational or rude, but it's just like, I'm not going to not give this person the benefit of the doubt to at least hear them out to see if it's fact or fiction, you know, and too many people nowadays, they just run with it. There's rumors, they run with it. It's not even a credible source, you know, but it's like, oh yeah, it must be true. So don't assume anything. So if you're assuming whatever it is, please don't do that. Okay. So next one. Number 29. Now you may have both of these or, you know, you might just have one and that's fine. Okay, so number 29 is wanting to be right. Okay, so for some of you, I'm hearing that you have both assuming and wanting to be right. You may have made a mistake. Okay, now this is what my guides are telling me for whoever this is relevant to. You may have made a mistake and you want to assume that whatever you thought about this other person is true because you don't want to be wrong. You want to be right. You don't want to look like an asshole. You don't want to, oh, shit, I made a mistake. You don't want to own that. You don't want that responsibility. So it's easier for you to assume that whatever you said or did, or you're believing that somebody else said, this person said or did, is true because you just want to be right with the way you handle things. Doesn't mean you are. It's all an illusion. Okay, it's all an illusion. You're only fooling yourself because the rest know the truth, you know? And then sometimes people, you know, say and do things to just sabotage things. So that's why it's always better to have communication, have clear communication with anybody, whoever it is. Just have clear communication with its work, friends, family, a relationship. Communication is crucial. It really is. And there's too many people that I've noticed throughout my life. They would rather let something crash and burn than have a conversation or just be honest. You know, it doesn't help. Okay. So wanting to be right. If you have drawn this sigil, you are not clearly seeing that either consciously or subconsciously you are wanting to be right more than you are wanting anything else. The truth in this situation is that it doesn't matter if you are right or not. You may be very wrong in this scenario, or you may be very right. Either way, what matters is that you are valuing being right over everything else, and this will lead to pain. It is a warped priority to have if you want genuine improvement to take place. If you are valuing being right over effectiveness, you need to ask yourself what your goal is. What do you get out of being right? And this is like what I was just saying. For some people, it's just knowing, oh, I'm just convincing myself I'm right so I don't have to face the reality I may have made a mistake or I'm wrong. That alone is just their reason for convincing themselves, you know? In relationships, especially when it comes to conflict resolution, this will get us into a lot of trouble. It will make finding a solution impossible. It will lock us into a struggle of ego versus ego. We need to ask ourselves if we want to be right or have success. We need to ask ourselves if we want to be right or if we want connection, because often these things are opposed. What we tend to do when we are defending our position is that we get louder as we feel ourselves losing ground relative to something that is very important to us. We talk over others, we interrupt, we shut others down, we try to convince everyone that we are right. It is akin to an alternate reality experience because we get feverish, like a dog with food aggression over a bone. It feels like this because our brain has quite literally been hijacked. Our body is being flooded with stress chemicals because it feels as though it is being threatened. It doesn't matter whether that threat is an external threat or just the threat of shame and the loss of power associated with being wrong. And so it chooses to shut down executive functions like compassion and strategy and openness. Instead, our instinct takes over and we do one of four things. We fight, keep arguing the point. Flee, revert to and hide behind group consensus, or exit the scene till convinced of our own righteousness. Freeze, disengage from the argument by shutting up while still maintaining our belief that we are right. Or 4, appease, make ourselves not a threat to our adversary by simply agreeing with him or her despite still believing that we are right. In all of these scenarios, we still did not let go of the idea that we are right. We simply avoided finding a meeting of minds. We prevented the critical sharing of information and opinions. We also got the opposite reward of our body being flooded with chemicals that makes us feel dominant and invincible, which happens when we argue to win. If you have drawn the sigil, you have to let go of the need to be right and instead look to be understood. To do this, you'll have to put effort into understanding others, listening to them, seeing them, and feeling them. When you do that for others, they will want to do it for you. Everyone has important opinions, perspectives, and information to share. You will soon find that the reward of actual connection will trump the feeling of being right and proving that you were right. All right, so there you go, Gemini. That is your reading. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, watching, and subscribing. Please select all and click the bell so you'll be notified every time I post new content. I already have the Valentine's Day readings out. I'm actually doing good this month. Happy birthday to my fellow Aquariuses. I know this is a Gemini reading, but you might be cross-watching. So yes, if you're interested in my oracle cards or my timing stones, go to zenwithme.com to pre-order, or my Etsy shop, Zen Within Me, to pre-order. Those links are down below in the description box. Peace and love, guys. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next reading.